We now take you to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Path of Legends by Iron.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the marathon. Hope you're all enjoying the runs today. Thanks again for having us to the No Glitches Allowed crew. My name's Iron. I'll be running Pokemon Violet Path of Legends, which is one of the single stories. We'll talk a little bit about the various stories and the categories of this game. It's a very different game to your typical Pokemon experience, so we'll have plenty of time to talk about those. With me on commentary is Spider. Spider also runs this game. Welcome, Spider.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I can't hear Spider. Is that normal?
Uh, can you hear me now?
Okay, we can hear you
There we
now.
go. Okay. Sorry.
uh, Great start. Both Spider and I spent quite a bit of time routing this game, this category, and one other category in particular, which we can talk about potentially. But we're really excited to share this with you guys today. So if you're ready, we can you can count me in. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna actually load up the game first before we do that. Um, you want to kind of explain the how the single stories sort of work in terms of save files?
Yeah, so the way that the single stories work is that the game has about a 45-minute intro. And for these shorter categories, it's not really worth playing through those because it's just the exact same thing each time. So what the community decided to do was make a pre-selected save file rules set that we just use for each of our single story runs. So we can start before that 45-minute or after that 45-minute intro.
Okay, well, I'm. This is where we start typically for the run, so you can count me in once this lady's out of my way. Uh, Spider, do you want to count me down?
Sure. 3, 2, 1, go.
So first thing we're doing is going shopping. There's always a shopping trip in Pokemon speedruns.
Yeah, so the items that we'll be getting here are X attacks, which we actually won't be using for a long time, but they're essential for the run to work out in the end.
I also am buying Pokédolls. You do not do this normally. This is just for safety. And so what I'm doing
Yeah,
here
we're
looks
gonna.
kind of odd. You can explain that as well.
So actually, your stream isn't showing up for me, but I know what you're doing, so I'm just gonna talk about it. Right now he's just doing some what we in the community call BLJs, which are
Well, not quite yet,
backwards
but
long
right now I
jumps.
am, yes.
Oh, okay,
I was talking
sorry.
about the void
You're doing the
hangout, but
zone out.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so BLJs. So the game does not allow you to slide down a slope backwards. And so what you'll do is put your back to the slope and then just repeatedly jump, and then you can just climb up any slope that you would normally slide down.
I also
Yeah,
did
unfortunately,
an auto battle there.
and that is to set up
Oh, I actually gotta go
Overgrow,
this way.
which
No, this
is
way. It's fine.
Brigatito's ability, um, which once it is below 33% HP, it gets a boost to all of its grass moves. And most of the attacks we'll be using for the run are grass, so it's very helpful in the few spots that we're actually able to set it up.
So see, I picked up a few items. Some of them, if you're familiar with the category, you don't normally pick them up. I picked up a cherry berry. That's actually a static spawn that's specific to this save file. It's going to be a nice, useful item later, which we'll explain. And I also picked up 2 experience candies. This is the primary way we level up our Pokemon in this game. These games, for the developers, put a ton of these candies, which the medium candy gives 3,000 experience, and the large gives 10. There is an XL candy, technically, but we haven't found one in the game yet. But that gives 30,000.
Well, we know where a 3L is, which is the same thing as an XL.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did not get enough.
But yeah, so the experience candies are a huge part of this game's routing, because they're just everywhere. And they allow you to get a lot of early experience and levels on your Pokemon, which is faster to do it that way than to actually fight normally.
You also see that I think we talked about a bit about Overgrow, but I'm now in Overgrow HP, which is going to be quite important on this next fight.
Right. So the next fight is actually going to be our first Titan of the run. And the first phase of the fight can be done just fine without Overgrow, but you need it for the second phase of the fight to get a one-shot. And you really want to get a one-shot on Clough's second phase, because Clough has the ability Anger Shell, where when it's knocked below 50% HP, it gets a bunch of stat boosts, and those stat boosts are extremely slow. So you want to make sure that you get those, get that one shot to completely skip Anger Shell.
Oh, I got the good fall there.
Nice. So once again, just picking up some extra items here. There's a rare candy here, and then one more rare candy that I think Iron is going to pick up before Clough.
Yeah, there's a third one. I'm going to skip that one for now. I'm going to go for a safety strat. To just go for an extra level later. Whoop. Awkward. So you saw that I picked up that first candy. I kind of jumped off the cliff and landed. And then the game asked me if I want to be teleported to the back to the top.
Did you hit the tower? If you're coming back?
Oh shoot! I need to do that. Okay, so we're just gonna do this then.
Yeah, sorry, I'm lagged.
It's over here. This is very slow. I totally forgot about that. Okay, so we're not doing that safety strat, but I'm doing another bunch of other safety stuff instead, so should be fine. So there's a tower up to my left. That serves as a fly point. So what I was supposed to do is go near that tower so I could fly back to it later. I forgot to do that. So I won't be getting an extra candy later, but that's okay. My cat is pretty solid.
Yeah, to be fair, that's not a normal strat that you do on PB attempts unless you have my cat.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that's interesting is that because we set up these save files ahead of time, everyone tailors their strategies specifically to their particular cat. So I do stuff different from Iron, and then everyone else does stuff slightly different than us.
But yeah, the resets for cat are really brutal. Once you get one, it's a very much a feel-good moment, because then you don't have to worry about it anymore. But
yep, and then you actually get to have fun with the category. But
Sorry?
It is a pretty good category. It's just a little bit of setup.
Yeah, exactly. So for this, you want to have pretty good special attack, and you especially want really good HP and defense. So most of your stats need to be important. You also don't want really, really bad speed. The worst possible speed, IV, or individual value, is not runnable, but you can technically run anything else. It's just a little bit slower. Yeah, so phase 2 here, you cannot one-shot it without Overgrow. This is a strat that's sort of the combination of the Let's Go, or the auto battles. That idea was sort of developed by a runner called Garfield the Lightning, a very long-time runner in the community. because it's a really fast way to get overgrow. The other alternative is just to go into a battle and take damage, but that's very slow. So, and then the grass knot, that was an idea. I think that Mocha Jones came up with, another runner in our community.
Yep.
Grass knot's a move that does the more damage if the Pokemon you're using it against is heavy. Cloth isn't the heaviest, but it's heavy enough that it's useful here.
And we do fight plenty of heavy things, so we get a lot of use out of the move.
Yeah.
While you're in the Cloth cutscene, can you try restarting the Discord share?
I can do that, yes. Oh, it looks like it. Another thing I have for my run right now is autosave on. That's also typically something you would not do for... Is this it? Hold on a second here. Cancel. You typically would not do that for... Try the full screen. That works. Okay, you see that now?
It's coming through now.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Because if you have autosave on, you pretty much cannot do the run again. Because you get all the items, you level up your cat. So, I'm doing it for this run. I'm sacrificing this save file. We didn't really talk about Scarlet versus Violet, but Scarlet does run a bit faster. The fastest Violet time in this category is 53:15 by myself. I just beat that yesterday in Scarlet, so my PB is now in Scarlet. But the fastest time in this run is is it a 51 something?
Yeah, 51.
So it's a fair amount faster.
Pull it up real quick. Yeah, and part of it is because just because Scarlet is faster, fewer people were running Violet. So I think it's less of a gap than the leaderboard would imply. But
yeah, I'd say so.
It is. There is a difference, especially on the fourth Titan that we'll be doing. Most of the single story categories of this game don't actually have a difference between Scarlet and Violet. This one does, because we are going to be fighting a different fourth Titan, depending on the version of the game.
Yeah, it just comes out a little bit worse for Violet, but that's okay. It's just more time. It's just time lost more than anything. The Pokemon isn't a huge threat, so you don't have to worry too much. Okay, so pretty much when you beat each of these Titans, your ride Pokemon, in this case Miraidon, is going to get an upgrade. So now I can go fast. For most speedruns in this game, you do get this Cloth upgrade, even if you're not doing the other single stories. We can talk about the other single stories when we get into the next cutscene. But
yeah,
at least
just being able to move so much faster is key in an open world game, as you might imagine.
At least one of the categories, you don't actually. It's faster to not get dash, so it's actually kind of interesting in that sense. But
right. So once again, we're just taking some more movement to BLJ to go into an area that we technically shouldn't be in right now. Although the Pokemon aren't too much higher level than us. And then we're just going to be moving around grabbing some candies and a couple other items at this point. The wild Pokemon can jump in at you at the most unexpected times, so Iron is constantly moving his camera around to try to get some good angles to see where he's going.
Yeah, a certain number can be on screen at the same time. I don't remember the exact number, but sometimes you can just run into an encounter that's nowhere near you. So my PB last night, I got 2 of those. It's 2 such encounters where I could do nothing about it because they just said surprise and ran right into me.
So there's another piece that movement tech that Iron just did is if Koraidon falls for a certain amount of time, Koraidon or Miraidon, I suppose, then there's an extra landing animation that takes like a second and a half. I don't know exactly how long it is. So what we do is before going off of a cliff like that, we'll actually dismount and then remount right before we hit the ground. So then the ride Pokemon hasn't fallen as long and won't get the landing animation.
This area is affectionately known as Ratio Rock because Pokemon can stand right in your way, and when you're trying to get those 2 candies. Luckily, didn't have too much difficulty.
Yeah, the sometimes it'll spawn like 2 packs of 5 just right in your way, and you just have no option than just leaving and to despawn them.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. There's a Pokemon you just saw on the left there. That's called Greavard. We don't like Greavard. They're very small. It's hard to see them. And
Greavard will hide in the ground, and they look sort of like a sparkling item.
Yeah. They also cackle quite triumphantly when you run into them, adding insult to injury.
So here we're going to jump and pick up a TM, Aura Sphere, which will be the move that we use for the next couple Titans. You don't use it on I can't think of the Donphan in this one.
Yeah, on Iron Treads.
Thank you, Iron Treads. You don't use it there, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just going to be used for the next couple Titans. It is a very strong special fighting move. And so that'll help us there. Oddly enough, the fighting type starter does not get to learn it, but the grass dark one does.
I'm kind of mad about that.
And then the other thing that Iron just picked up was the Rash Mint. Mints were items that were introduced in Sword and Shield, I believe, and they allow you to change your Pokemon's nature, which is very useful in this game because it allows you to run a lot more Pokemon than you might otherwise be able to do. So the Rash Mint that he picked up will raise special attack, and we will be using mostly special moves for majority of the run. So that just gives all of our moves a little bit of extra oomph.
You'll notice it's raining right now. Rain is not great because in certain areas of the game it lags the game more than the game already is lagging. This game is notorious for its lag. The rain and snow makes it worse in certain areas only.
Yeah, at least you didn't get a blizzard.
Yeah.
But yeah, the heavy rain, especially in this area by the lake, is pretty rough. So Iron's going to tap a tower right here, and then we'll be flying back to that later towards the end of the run. But that's just a convenient fly point for us to grab at that point. And then we've gotten most of our candies, so now we're just going to grab a few more, and then head right to our second Titan.
If you have any donations, feel free to read them while I do some movement here.
Just a brief reminder that we have a variety of incentives, including Bram Stoker's Dracula upgrade to hard difficulty.
Okay. Yeah, that was a Bramblin. I've never seen them be so aggro before, but first time for everything, I guess. Some Pokemon like to chase you, or they seem to want to come after you. Never seen Bramblin do that, but
They're a fairly rare spawn, so it might just be that we don't see them much.
yeah.
So now that we've gathered, or are about to gather all of the rest of our candies, it's time to use them all on Sprigatito. Or Florigato, I guess, at this point.
Yes.
And we're going to bring it from level 26 to level 51 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 51. Which is a pretty good spike. We're going to be ending the run at 53, so we have gotten most of the levels that we're going to get for the run.
Oh wait, there was a donation apparently being read. I can't hear the host though.
Oh.
I see Tempest in the chat.
Can you hear
Apologies.
me?
I can't hear. I cannot hear.
No, apparently Iron cannot hear the host. I can hear the host. So.
Oh. Can the stream hear me?
Whoops.
Yeah, I just had to leave for a moment to turn off some background noise and thought I was needed when I came back, so I just started saying something.
Yeah, you're good. I don't know.
I was confused.
Yeah, it's strange.
All right, well, we'll give a warning next time since I really can't hear.
That is
So yeah,
weird.
if we suggest donations, then Spider will be the one to start talking instead of me.
All right, so here's the second Titan. We got Orthworm. It's a big worm. There's not much else to it. Or it's a steel type, so Aura Sphere takes care of it, no problem.
Yes, I did a lot of stuff in that one menu there. Typically, for Pokemon speedruns, we try to do menus and do a bunch of stuff all at once because it saves time. As you might imagine for an RPG. But here's phase 2. Nothing to worry about here. A common thing that people forget is to use the rare candies, so if you do forget, the Orthworm here does not die. Phase 2. The way the second phase works... Oh, sorry?
I was just going to say, it's not quite as bad as failing to one-shot Cloth, but it is still slow.
That's true. The way the second phase works is there's an HP buff to the Pokemon. The amount the HP is increased varies randomly. I don't really understand why. So Cloth, its HP doubles. Orthworm, I think, gets... I know the bird gets like 1.5. Okay, so Orthworm
no,
and the bird
Bombird is 1.2.
Oh, yeah, it's weird. And then I think most of the others are double. I think the Tatsugiri is like triple.
Tatsugiri is 2.5, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some interesting HP increases that the Titans get to make it a bit more difficult for us. Phase 1, they basically have the stats of a regular Pokemon. We were talking about the other single story runs, which is a great time to talk about Starmobiles.
Oh god.
At least mention how weird they are. So
yes.
In the Starfall Street single story run, since we're in a cutscene, you have to defeat the 5 Starfall bases, and as part of that, you need to beat the Starmobiles at the end of each one, and they just have some very odd stats that are hard-coded onto them. They are very much not your normal Pokemon.
Not only that, there's lots of like move effects that don't work on them for whatever reason. Like you cannot get a critical hit on the Starmobiles, which would make Meowscarada potentially a good candidate, although it doesn't match up particularly well. Because the move that Meowscarada learned when it evolved was Flower Trick, which is going to be used quite a bit later on.
And one thing to note one important thing to note about Flower Trick is that it's an extremely slow move. And in this game, we're not allowed to turn off move animations. So one of the things that's actually fairly important in the routing of this category and all of the Scarlet Violet categories is how long each move takes to play. And so we try not to use Flower Trick unless we absolutely need to, because it has a very slow animation.
Can I say a couple things right quick?
We can hear you now, and go ahead.
There you go.
oh, thank God. But yeah, 2 things. First off, I love the fact that they just brought back how Razor Leaf functioned in Gen 1 as Meowscarada's signature move. That's awesome. Razor Leaf always crit in Gen 1 due to how crits work in that game. And B, That rule of not being able to turn off move animation sounds really cool. That sounds like it is kind of interesting for routing.
Yeah, it
is, yeah.
It definitely makes the game slower, but it also makes it more interesting. So we'll take that trade-off.
Yeah, so the other categories are sort of 4 main categories for this game. There's the any percent, which is beat the entire game start to finish, including all 3 single stories and the way home ending bit. There's also the 3 single stories separately. For a time, there was one main Pokemon that was the best in all 4 of them, and that was Flamigo, which is a brand new Pokemon in this game. Fighting flying type, really good attack, decent speed, and very good move animations, very fast move animations. I took it upon myself, along with a few other people, to hashtag Stop Flamigo, and we have been successful in 2 out of the 4 categories so far. This one, as well as Starfall Street.
I don't think we're kicking it out of any percent, I'll be honest.
Probably not. We're trying the Victory Road. There's a few things we've tried to little success thus far. But we're able to find out that the water starter actually works very well for Starfall Street. Unfortunately, the fire starter is not good for speedrunning. Its speed is not very good, and you kind of want to have good speed. It has really good stats otherwise.
And its signature move is really nice too, but unfortunately its speed stat is just holding it down too much.
Yeah.
Alright, so now we have exited the long Orthworm cutscene, which means that we are done on the eastern side of Paldea. So now we're going to fly over to the western side and take out the Titans over there.
Okay, so Orthworm, the ability that we get from beating it is to be able to jump higher. Like so. Oop. So there I picked up a rare candy, and then I bought the Miracle Seed as well. Talk about.
Yep, and the Miracle Seed is a held item that will increase the damage of all of our grass moves. And right now, 3 of our 4 moves are grass, and it will stay that way. So being able to boost the damage of our grass moves by 20% is extremely valuable.
Won't be equipping it just yet, though, because the next Titan I don't use grass moves on.
Yeah, the next Titan is Bombardier, and Bombardier is, I think, level 20. And we are currently 51, so it's not too big of an issue for us. The other item that Iron is picking up in this section of movement that is useful is the Adamant Mint. And the Adamant Mint is another one of those nature-changing mints that I mentioned.
Alright, I'm going to score a goal with this olive, by the way.
Oh, nice.
So this is completely a time waste, but just a meme. This is part of the Victory Road speedrun, where you have to score a goal as part of the bug gym. Score.
Nice. You always got to hit the olive. Well, when you feel like wasting time.
It's a point in the run where you can really get trolled, because that thing bounces like probably worse than an American football, if you're familiar with that sport.
But yeah, so the Adamant Mint that we picked up earlier, we're going to use that at the end of the run to switch to a plus attack nature. Because in the final fight, we want to use physical moves instead of special moves. So then we'll be getting that particular attack boost.
Alright, just a bit more movement here. This is a place where you can run into a lot of Pokemon. Including that little guy right there. most of the wild Pokemon you run into by accident are small, either very small or they just spawn right on top of you as you're going by. Can't do anything about it.
Yeah, the game will sometimes spawn a pack of like 5 Pokemon right in your path, and you really don't have much hope there.
Alright, here is the... We talked about BLJs, which is a staple in Mario 64. We have Choco Mountain here from Mario Kart. Luckily I didn't get hit by any of those boulders. But that's another way to lose a little bit of time, is if one of those rocks hits you. There is a very weird sort of glitch where instead of getting knocked back and stopped in your tracks by one of those rocks, it bounces off your head and it goes flying into the air. We've only seen that once. Garfield the Lightning got it in one of his runs, and it was extremely amusing.
No one has been able to replicate it.
Kind of like an
I
olive.
really hope we find it at some point.
Yeah, because most of the time you're not getting hit, and if you do, then I think there's some low chance to get it. But
Right.
Alright, phase
so
2.
Bombardier just goes down to Aurasphere. That's really all
It's a
there is
range
to
for
it.
this cat, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember what the range is, but I'm gonna go for it. In PB attempts, I would just probably go, I think I just went for Flower Trick. Yeah, I think I got it. Cool. So yeah, one of the great things about setting up your save file is you can kind of reset until you get the stats you like, and you generally want to have really good special attack. This Titan Phase 2, as well as the next Titan we're going to face, there are some damage ranges, which means effectively there's a random value in the damage formula. It's between 0.85 and 1 inclusive, and it's a random number that's applied. So there's 16 possible damage rolls in theory. Sometimes because of rounding, there's duplicates. But for that Bombardier, you can have, I don't know what the worst range is, but it can be a fairly low range, that it's just better to go for Flower Trick, potentially. But most of the time you reset for really good stats, so you don't have to worry about that.
Well, we're in another cutscene. I could probably do some announcements if there's any.
Yep.
No new donations, but I would like to bring up some of our donation incentives. As always, we are donating to Go Rescue Pet Adoption Center, and we have an incentive for the next run after this, Papa's Hot Doggeria Character Bid War. Taylor at $0, Peggy at $2. It will not take much to swing that in the other direction, so maybe we can get some competition going. There's also a incentive for Bram Stoker's Dracula upgrade to hard difficulty. That's at 25 out of 45. And then Luigi's Mansion 3, for $50, we can watch the director's Ghost Godzilla movie. There's also a language bid war for Say No More.
Alright, thank you, Woof.
All right, thank you. So now the next Titan is a pretty short jaunt to get over to, but we're going to do a little bit of menuing in between to get the Miracle Seed equipped and use our last couple of rare candies. And then we can just jump right into that final, or the fourth Titan fight. Fourth Titan fight, excuse me.
This is the one Titan that's different between Scarlet and Violet, and it is a bit slower in Violet just because its typing is different.
Yeah, so a Scarlet run goes against a ground fighting, and Violet goes against Steel. It is Steel, right?
Steel Ground.
Steel Ground? Okay, yeah. And so in Scarlet, you can just go for a Grass Knot, and you have, depending on your cat special attack, you have a decent chance of one-shotting it. I don't. Is there a one-shot range possible for Violet?
It's a range for phase 1,
Okay.
and then phase 2 is always a 2-shot.
Okay. Yeah, so that's quite a bit tougher for Violet to go through than on Scarlet. So, like we said, this is the one spot in the single story runs where Violet is definitively slower than Scarlet.
I'm trying to make
And
this
then the
jump.
other thing that, and then the other thing that Iron did there was learn knockoff, which
Nailed it.
is nice.
I've
which
never
is a
nailed
dark
that in
move.
Scarlet, by the way. Only in Violet. I don't know why. I was complaining about that on my stream. I've done probably a dozen attempts to this point in Scarlet in my brief grind before the marathon. Never nailed that jump once. And I just got it on my first try here.
Every time on Violet. I wouldn't know because I take a different way down that hill.
But the interesting thing is this Iron Treads, it kind of rolls around the field. So if you're slow getting down that mountain, it can roll away and you just lose an obscene amount of time. But for Great Tusk, it kind of just ambles along nice and slowly. And it'll always be in the same place.
Yeah, and I guess that is technically... So even though you're losing a turn on Violet, you're getting to the Titan slightly faster because Iron Treads just moves right to you, while Great Tusk you need to make your way over to.
Can I say something right quick?
Sure.
Yep, go ahead.
There was a slight error on my part when listing some donations. I got confused. The last run was the Say No More run, so that incentive was just never officially closed. But another incentive you could donate towards is Disneyland Adventures Disney Sing-Along Bid War, which has 3 options. Part of your world, I'll make a man out of you, and proud of your boy. There's also Streets of Rage 4 Food Icon Bid War with apple and chicken, onigiri and ramen, pizza and poutine, tofu and salad.
I think, Iron, you want to go for the poutine, right?
Yeah, so there's the 2-shot there. Interestingly, it used knockoff, and it didn't knock off the Miracle Seed. I'm not sure why.
Oh, that is weird.
But I would not have been able to get the 2-shot without the Miracle Seed. So, we learned something new today, guys.
Are dark types immune to getting knocked off?
Oh, that might be possible.
Because there are a few weird interactions like that.
That
Dark
is
types
true.
are not immune to being knocked off.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, this is definitely just a Scarlet and Violet
An oddity then.
But yeah, that damage range for my cat is, I believe, just over 50%. To get with both combined, the damage from 2 combined grass knots. The partner Pokemon that Arvin uses in that fight is a Scovillain. It usually Scary Faces turn 1, which is not really helpful. Unless the Treads uses Rapid Spin, which raises its speed. It's actually quite fast. And so, but if it uses Fire Fang, it's guaranteed 2-turn.
And in Scarlet, if you miss the 1-shot, then you're hoping to see Razor Leaf from Scovillain.
Yeah.
So it has an effective move against both Titans. It's just, it never chooses to use it.
That is Titan number 4. We didn't really talk about the ability that we got from beating the bird, but that was, I believe, swimming.
Yep.
And this one we're getting now is gliding.
Yeah, the crab makes you run fast, the worm lets you jump, the bird lets you swim, The ground titan lets you
Fly.
fly, and the fish lets you climb. So a bit of opposites that they played around with there.
Yeah, we're not going to see any climbing, though, unfortunately. You only see that in any percent.
So the fifth and final Titan is when the fights start to get a little sketchy. So there's a couple things that are different about this one. The first is that this Titan actually has 3 phases instead of the 2 phases that all the other Titans have. The first phase is going to be Dondozo 1, where we fight a Dondozo with fairly normal stats. That one can be arranged to one-shot. Second phase that we're going to see is Dondozo 2, where we fight Dondozo by itself again, now with an HP boost. And then the third phase is going to be Tatsugiri, which is a water dragon Pokemon with a very high special attack stat, which can be extremely scary.
Do we have time for a quick donation?
Yeah, go for it. We're just flying over to the island here.
Dynam donates $5. Good luck on the run. Shoutouts to both Iron and Spider for their contributions to the Pokemon speedrunning community. Caw crow noises. That money goes towards Luigi's Mansion 3, watch the director's Ghost Godzilla movie, and Disneyland Adventures Disney Sing-Along, I'll Make a Man Out of You. Good choices.
Thank you, Dynam. Dynam is another excellent single-story speedrunner of the game. And the crow noises were because Haunch Crow has recently been routed for Starfall Street, which is a very interesting run.
Yep.
Category end run, in this case.
Oh, okay. You may have noticed when the fish came along to eat Tatsugiri, I was standing in the way and then I disappeared. My sprite disappeared. So that's kind of a weird... Actually, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this. So the Adamant Mint, you need it for the final fight. I chose to use it here because it could give me a nice extra bit of a boost and a little bit of extra safety on the Tatsugiri. It does make it does make the Dondozo a tiny bit worse, but not too bad.
Yeah, Dondozo is still fine while being adamant. Tatsugiri has 4 moves. The first one is the one that we want to see. It's Taunt. We love seeing Taunt. It's our favorite move. The other 3 are not great. Muddy Water is fine unless it lowers your accuracy, but that's not too big of a concern either because we're mostly using Grass Knot, which can't miss. But the other 2 are the problematic ones. It has Dragon Pulse, which will do a lot of damage to you, and then Icy Wind, which doesn't do quite as much damage, but it will slow you, thereby making Tatsugiri faster. So both of those can be pretty rough.
Alright, we just saw Flower Trick there. So with Adamant, if the Greedent uses Tail Whip, Flower Trick is the play, because you can't 2-shot with Grass Knot unless the Greedent does damage. So you do lose a bit of time. And we saw how slow Flower Trick was, so that explains why we don't use it very often. Alright, here's Tatsugiri. This fight's really bad. I've gotten some pretty good fights in my PB grind in the last few days, so we'll see what happens here.
Good luck with Tatsu.
Let's see what he does here. Or she, I think it might be a she. I don't know. Okay, we saw Taunt. That's... Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we X-attack Flower Trick here. We talked about how Grass Knot's good against Pokemon who are very heavy. Tatsugiri is extremely light. Okay, Icy Wind is not great. So now I am slower.
And what the X attack did for us is it effectively doubled our HP, or our attack.
I think knockoff kills here. Let's find out. Okay, good. I saved some animation time there by using knockoff. I figured it was adamant, so it was probably fine. But that was not too bad. Icy Wind is really scary because then it's faster than you, and then if it uses Dragon Pulse, you're dead. And then in that case, another Icy Wind. Yeah, another Icy Wind there would kill. If you have really good special defense, you can tank 2 Icy Winds. But it's pretty like the God Fight is actually getting X attack turn 1. Greedent uses Tail Whip, and you get knocked into Overgrow. And then if you have the Adamant Mint on and you use Flower Trick, you have a chance to one-shot the Tatsugiri. It's like 50-50 with the best attack stat, I think. And I have gotten that in a run. It's actually insane.
Yeah. There's a very slightly worse version of that where you get a takedown from a Greedent as well, which still leads to a very strong 2-turn fight. But most of the time we're going to be seeing a 3-turn out of Tatsugiri.
Yeah. The Adamant Mint definitely helps a little bit there. It's kind of debatable whether it's better to use it there or use it afterwards, but generally what happens is if I take damage from the first Dondozo, so the first Dondozo fight actually has a damage range. In this case, I think it's a 9 and 16 range, so you're just a little better than a coin flip to get the one-shot. And if it does damage, it can use Aqua Tail. It has Water Pulse, which can confuse you. It can also just paralyze you with Body Slam, which is pretty brutal. If I have to heal before, because you don't get a free heal before the next Dondozo fight, so if I have to heal, I typically just use the Adamant Mint there, since I'm going to be going into my menu anyway. But if I get the range, I typically just don't use the Adamant Mint until before Arven, which is our next and final fight of the run. I know it's almost over already. This is a very short
Very unusual
category
for a Pokemon speedrun. But yeah, so Arven is our final fight now that we've dealt with all the Titans. And Arven has one Pokemon that is a problem, and it is a fairly major problem. Do you want to talk about Greedent?
Yeah, so he leads a Greedent, which is a big chubby squirrel. Doesn't look that threatening, but it has a pretty bad move called Body Slam. It also gets the same type attack bonus from Body Slam, which means it does a lot of damage. It does roughly half of your health, and that's if you have good defense. So that's where our HP defense requirement for the stats is. We want to make sure we have pretty decent, like above 20, generally above 20 IV in both defense and HP is required. And if you factor in the chances to get paralyzed per turn, you're about 50-50 to get paralyzed during setup.
Because we need to set up 2 X attacks in order to make the fight work. And part of that is because Arven's final Pokemon has Intimidate, which is going to knock off one of our stat boosts that we worked so hard for against Greedent.
There is a way you can get through the fight, and you ideally want to get Overgrow after the setup as well. So the idea is to get hit by 2 Body Slams, not get paralyzed, get knocked into Overgrow, and then you're in Overgrow for the rest of the fight, and you don't have to worry about anything else. If you have to heal, generally you're going to be out of Overgrow. And then you have to do a Terrestrialization on his final Pokemon, which is the gimmick in this game, like Mega Evolutions, Z moves, Dynamax, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And that wastes a lot of time. And so typically for PB attempts, if you're at the high level, you're just resetting if you get paralyzed, because
as soon as you see a paralysis, you're resetting.
It's like a 55-second time loss.
Yep, and the reason why we need to Overgrow, or we need to Terrestrialize if we don't get Overgrow, is because we just need that damage boost that Overgrow would normally give us, and Terrestrialization provides instead, in that case.
Okay, You'll see I put on the cherry berry I picked up way back at the beginning. That is generally slow, because equipping an item is slow, and it's also going to mean that the fight here, I don't get that boost from the miracle seed anymore. And what cherry berry does is it heals paralysis, so it gives me a little bit of safety on our good friend Greedent. I normally never go for this in PB attempts. It's just too much of a time sink, but it's definitely a really nice safety strat. And that's
right.
great for
It puts
marathons.
down our paralysis chance from 50% to, I think, like 9%. I don't remember what the number is off the top of my head, but that's,
yeah, the
it's
chances
about
of
that.
the chances of getting paralyzed, you'd have to get paralyzed twice for it to be a problem, and that's 30% times 30%, which is 9. Yes. So
That quick math.
the problem with this though is I can't do like the super fast fight, which requires using the faster move animations. I'm gonna have to use some slightly slower moves, which I should actually go ahead and look at my notes because I never do this and make sure I know what I'm doing.
Just when in doubt, flower trick.
Yeah. Always flower trick there. Always flower trick there. What's my attack ID? I might be able to leafage the cloister, but I don't know what my attack ID is, so I'm just gonna grass knot. Should be fine. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing a couple extra flower tricks, which is gonna be a little bit of a time loss. And there is one spot I said I picked the second option when talking to Arvin because it does save a little bit of time. He thinks a little bit less about what he's gonna say next, I think.
I think it saves like a second and a half to pick the second option.
Yeah.
If you say yes, he just stands there and puzzles it for a while.
All right, we're ready to go into the final fight here. And I get a save right there, which is fine. This is one of the fights where I turned on autosave. But yeah, Arvin's going to pretty much be using all the Pokemon he's picked up along our very short 1-hour journey in the last hour. He's going to use all of them against us in this fight.
Along with the Mabostiff that we spent so long trying to nurture back to health.
Yes, and his Greedent, which he started with. So I think this cat cannot die in setup unless the one bad thing happens, which I'm not going to talk about, because usually when you mention it, it happens.
At least it's 1 in 24 in this game.
So here's Greedent. Looks kind of goofy, but it's no joke. We get 2x attacks off here.
Greedent is bulkier than it looks.
Yep, even after we've used 2x attacks and or an overgrow, we still need to use Flower Trick to knock it out.
Yep. Alright. Got paralyzed on the end, which is fine, because the Cherry Berry is going to proc. Nom
Excellent.
nom.
Such a great animation.
Alright, this should be a win unless I choose the wrong move. Alright, next up is Scoville, and this is pretty much the only reason why we teach knockoff.
Because as a grass fire type, our grass moves do not do too much. So we need that singular dark move to take it out.
Okay, and very sadly, we don't get to see Leafage here. You actually do use Leafage on 3 Pokemon in this fight. Without the Cherry Berry, you need the Miracle Seed for it. And that's quite funny because Leafage is our starting grass move, and we get to use it at the very end of the run. Always a funny thing.
Yeah, it's funny that we get to use a 40 base power move at the end of the game, or at the end of the run.
You still have to... I'll just
you still have to Terra when you don't have the Miracle Seed?
You might need to. But let's terrestrialize just for fun, because let's show the fans what terrestrialization looks like. It's gonna waste time,
Safety,
but whatever.
and it looks cool.
So what terrestrialization does is it pretty much gives a slight boost to your Terra type moves. In which case, it's usually a type that matches your normal type, which is in this case Grass. So my Grass move is going to do a lot more damage. I don't believe I need to do this, but it's kind of cool.
I think you actually do, because I think you need 2 of Overgrow, Miracle Seed, and Terra.
Interesting.
And since you don't have the Miracle Seed, you only had 1 of those.
Yeah, the notes don't actually say that, so I should confirm that. Yes,
exactly.
Valeria Asteria is correct. It's a 2 times boost on stab moves.
And then Flower Trick to knock it out, and that is it.
Okay, nice, slow, but safe fight. Always a good thing for a marathon. No deaths in the run is always also a very good thing. This run, you die a lot in Tatsugiri and on this fight, so... time is going to be, there's going to be a little banner that comes up that says Path of Legends complete, and when that fades out, that will be our cue to end time. I will count you sort of in as to when that is. Still a little bit of mashing here, but not too long. Starfall Street has about 5 more minutes of mashing because of the
there's
point.
5 minutes after the final fight.
Yep.
Before time ends.
And... time.
GG. Excellent run.
Alright. Let's say some words of to mourn this cat. I cannot run this cat anymore because I have autosave on, so cat did its job.
Did its job well.
Thank you so much to the No Glitches Allowed team for having me at showcase this run. This is a lot of fun to both route and also just to run. It's a really great category. If you have the game, definitely recommend it. The any percent run is really long. It's a really good run, but there is some very slow points in it, and it's not great for people who don't have a lot of time. So these single stories in general, especially this one, are really good for if you don't have a lot of time on your hands and you want to do some speed runs of this game. The platforming is really fun, aside from the random encounters. But it's Pokemon, what do you expect? Yeah, shout out to a bunch of people in the community as well who helped throughout this. Spider included, as well as Pulse Effects, Garfield the Lightning, Mocha Jones, a few others as well helped to work with this on this category. It was a team effort, really, by the community to get this route to where it is. So thanks to everybody who worked on that. Thanks, Spider, for commentating. It's a lot of fun. Do you have anything to say?
For having me. No, I think you covered it,
Any shoutouts?
PSR community is great, and you should do some runs.
Yeah, there's speedrunning communities for all the different sort of platforms. There's the Switch, 3DS, DS, Game Boy. So if you're interested in any of those, you can look up the Discord links on SRC. You'll be able to find those there. Lots of great people in all these communities who are more than willing to help, and are really, really nice people in general as well. So yeah, I think that's about it for me. Thanks again.
It was nice having you. Yeah, it is. Glad to hear you're happy with it. Anyways, that was a nice, satisfying run. I don't know terminology. What does it mean what does that mean? Anyways, yeah, that was a nice, satisfying run. Next up is Pokemon, not Pokemon, Papa's Hot Doggeria. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm sure like everyone here has probably grown up with these games. I was always a Freezeria guy, but Hot Doggeria was a close second. Afterwards, we have One Piece Odyssey, which I'm also looking forward to. I'm kind of curious how that game is going to be. We don't have that much long left for the next incentive in regards to a poll, and that's the character bid war for Papa's Hot Doggeria. So get those bids in and save those puppers. We got a donation in from Spiderc, our previous commentator. $10. Challenges towards Bram Stoker's Dracula, upgrade to hard difficulty, and Pizza and Poutine for the food icon bid war for Streets of Rage 4. That means we are only $10 away from the Bram Stoker hard difficulty incentive. And Pizza and Poutine takes the lead in the food icon bid war. It's currently 10 pizza and poutine, 5 onigiri and ramen, and 0 for both apple and chicken and tofu and salad. Since we got, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, Journey, as y'all can see on screen, will be coming up later in the marathon in a couple days. And looks like we recently hit the incentive for Sancho Panda Sings a Song, I'm looking forward to that. We also have a target for the Entropy Center any percent glitch exposition, which needs $60. And of course, who can forget the fact that we are 45 away from watching the Director Ghost Godzilla movie in Luigi's Mansion 3. We support Go Rescue Pet Adoption Center, and I'm looking forward to seeing how much money we raise for the dogs you can see on screen. Next up, as we are getting closer to it, is Papa's Hot Doggeria. As I've also mentioned before, One Piece Odyssey is the second development project of Ilka. For nearly a decade now, they've been mainly an asset company, helping with assets. It's hard to find their exact work, so I'm not sure what exactly they've done. Some people hyped them up more than they probably have done, but they still seem decently competent when given enough time. Although it just so happens that for some reason their first development project was remakes of beloved Pokemon games, which probably wasn't the best idea, but it seems to have given them some much needed experience because One Piece Odyssey, from what I've seen, looks decent. I don't really know much about it, but it looks solid, and I'm looking forward to hosting that in a bit.